Meet me. Alright, welcome back to another hero preview, guys. A bunch of you have messaged me on Discord asking about my opinions on ML Luluca and Ervalen. So here they are. As we already know, the new ML5 is going to be ML Luluca, which is kind of surprising because everyone thought it was going to be ML Cigarette. I'm not sure if this was teased, but here we go. We have top model Luluca. What a stupid name. What's next? Like stripper Aither? So I don't know. I mean, I guess the artwork's good and stuff, and let's talk more about her kit, but I think this is a really idiotic name. Is she supposed to be a robot? No, she's not a robot. I don't know what her backstory is. She became a model. Strays is the best designer in the universe? What? I don't want to even know what that story is. Okay, so let's talk about Luluca. She has a both a self and team attack imprint, which is pretty good. Looks like her base crit is decent as well, and 115 base speed is really good. And she's also a mage like her original RGB version. More importantly, her defense is real low. Let's look at her skills. So this is her S2. It increases the combat readiness of all allies by, looks like 15% at max mola, so a little less than CDOM's 20, but also gives her a self-attack buff, and it also grants her an extra turn. So anytime it has an extra turn mechanic, keep in mind the cooldown's shorter than it looks. So it's a 4-turn cooldown, so really it's like a 3-turn cooldown with the fact that she gets an extra turn. This move seems pretty nuts actually, because it's like a CDOM push that's 5% less CR, but also gives her a self-attack imprint. One thing to note though is that heroes with self-attack buffs usually have lower multipliers to compensate, because the assumption is that they're always going to have attack buff because they don't have to bring anyone else to give it to them. So this might not bode too well for her multipliers, but the move itself is great. So let's move on to her next skill. Looks like her regular S2, Demolish. Transcends cosmic space, blah blah blah. Gives her stealth for 2 turns. When the enemy is defeated, it inflicts extinction and decreases her skill cooldown by 1 turn. And, oh, this is nice. The damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's speed. So, looks like this thing's probably going to hit hard. It does extinction, so yet another Arbiter counter. I mean, how many Arbiter counters need to exist at this point? But, other than that, a pretty basic skill. What I do like about this a lot is the stealth for 2 turns, because this is kind of the problem that Landy had. Everyone wanted to build her strong, but she has literally no defensive moves. Stealth is great. Now, against certain teams, this is completely useless. Like, if you bring her against SSB, she's just going to get knocked out anyway. But if they go like a heavy single-target DPS team, Luluca's going to be really scary, because it's basically she's going to be like Spectre Tenebrian. If you build her high damage and high speed, it doesn't matter that she's squishy if she can't be attacked. So this move seems pretty nuts. Let's see this showcase and see what it looks like. So the artwork, she flies into outer space. She's attacking a defense broken target. There was an Aureus there. 28,000. I think this speaks to her. Does she have an attack buff there? She does, right? Yeah, she has attack buff. That damage is actually not... I mean, 28,000 looks like a lot, right? But let's keep in mind that she's attacking a Riolet with defense break on it. Like a CDOM Soulburn's going to hit him for like 50-something K. So it doesn't look like the hardest hitting move. But still seems, I mean, 28k is still nothing to laugh at, but without defense break, obviously that was going to hit for a lot less, like in the 10,000s. Granted, there's an Aureus there, but still seems pretty decent hitting, but I don't think it's going to be mind-blowing. Like, you can't expect to Like, there's no way with attack buff she was going to one-shot this Ruel without defense break. So I don't think she's a one-shotter. Now, her S1, when used on a caster's turn, has a 40% chance. So basically, when she's not counter-attacking to stop people from putting her on counter set. 40% attack. 10 soul burn is a 100% chance to grant an extra attack. And in PvP, it ignores Aureus, basically. So let's see how hard this thing hits for. So who's she going to attack? The Ruel. Holy Jesus, what? Why did the first one hit for more? Oh, time matter. They're running her on time matter. So 6k, 6.6k, ignoring Aureus. Pretty decent damage. Not mind-blowing, but pretty decent. But considering it's only a 10 soul burn, times that by 2 would have done 13,000 on an S1 against a Ruel. That's pretty nuts, actually, because that's a really cheap soul burn. So, yeah, I mean, I actually think she's pretty impressive. I'm wondering what you would run her with. So if you run her in a standard bruiser comp, I think she has to be a last pick, because I think people will deal with her the same way they deal with things like S10A. If she's built squishy, they're going to bring things like K-Ron and SSB and just blow her the hell up. So honestly, I think she's like a safer last pick, where if they go something that's very single target attacky, especially now with things like Triple Knight, ML Crow being popular, because even squishies can survive the first S3, I think she's going to be a really scary choice. Alternatively, I think what people will run her with is kind of like pseudo cleaves, where it's not like a Athletica cleave necessarily, but like a Rose initiating team where you have a lot of DPS in the opener. Because she has extinction, if you have something like a Rose team, you could boost her up. She can extinct the squishy DPSs and then just hide in stealth and slowly burst everyone down. More importantly, she could extinct whatever they bring that has the AoE damage that might knock her out of stealth. I think she'll be bad against teams that have a lot of AoE options, because I have a feeling she's going to be very squishy, and if you build her as a bruiser with a lot of life, it's probably going to be tough because she's not going to do much damage anymore and end up being kind of useless because she doesn't really have any debuffs on any of her abilities. So I think those are two main ways you can run her, as like a last pick in a bruiser draft to scare them with extinction and high stealth damage if they don't have AoE, or in some kind of like pseudo cleave as a heavy hitting extinction DPS. But honestly, I think her kit looks pretty good. Yeah, if I can, I will try and pull for her 100%. She probably will be on the easier side to gear because you probably just go full damage on her and speed. I don't think there's any reason to even attempt to turn her into a bruiser, especially if with like how much life does he have here? Only like, was that 6,000 life? No, 8,000 life Luluca. If an 8,000 life Luluca can only hit a defense broken Riolet for 28k even through Aureus, then you probably need damage on her. So that's pretty much ML Luluca, my thoughts on her. Now let's talk about this little boy. Okay, so Irvalen, his artwork is terrible. It looks like a 3-star hero. Looks very bland. He's the illegitimate child of the Lefundos royal family. So, who are the Lefundos? It's like Tywin, right? So he's Tywin's kid or something? I have no idea. I don't want to look at him. Let's just talk about his abilities right away. Jesus, Smaugate really likes little boys. Okay. Let's look at his stats. Again, pretty fast, 113 speed. This is horrendous defense. Actually, ML Luluca had pretty decent defense, I guess. But this is freaking low. So he's going to be squish. And he has a health imprint for the team. And a self-crit imprint. That's pretty good. So that'll make him a lot easier to gear. Let's look at his S3. I guess they start with the S3 first this time. Attacks the enemy with a sword, adopting a counterattack stance and granting a barrier. This is a new mechanic. When the enemy's max health is greater than the caster's max health, damage dealt increases proportional to the difference up to a maximum of 60%. It's kind of confusing for me to understand because I don't know what the multiplier of that is. And the barrier strength increases proportional to his attacks. So I'm assuming that you want to spam as much attack on him as possible. And I don't like the 20 soul burn that all it does. Oh wait, no, grants an extra turn. I thought all it did was extend duration of buffs, but it does grant an extra turn, so that's pretty decent. 4 turn cooldown and max mola. Let's see the damage on this thing. So he is going on the Ruel here. Defense broken again. Ooh, one-shotted him. Through an Aureus with defense break. And that is a Ruel. I kind of wish they didn't do the defense break examples. I mean, I could probably figure out what the damage would have been with the calculator, but I'm too lazy. It definitely wouldn't have killed him, obviously, if he wasn't defense broken. Violet would have hit that Ruel for probably like 40k, but his S3 also ignores defense. So nonetheless, looks like it hits pretty damn hard, and it gives him this fun counterattack buff. I think the only other hero that has that right now is that robot thing. I forgot what it's called. Now I guess they're showing the FCC thing, and he immediately counterattacks and defense breaks. Let's talk about his S2 now. Attacks the enemy repeatedly, gives him immunity. That's good. It's only a 2-turn cooldown, and that same health difference mechanic. So he can use this every other turn and keep giving himself a 1-turn immunity. And it also gives him a combat readiness push if he hits someone with more health than him or more maximum health than him. This seems like a pretty good skill as well. Let's take a look at it, see how much his CR push is. So he hits FCC, and he gets a CR push. Okay, so he got a pretty big CR push there because I guess the maximum HP difference was big. But that damage actually seemed pretty underwhelming. There's no other knight on the team, no damage mitigation, and still only 14k on a defense broken target. So unless that FCC has a ton of defense, doesn't look like it's probably going to hit for less than like 7k normally. Vengeance S1 rapidly. So this is a basic S1, except it has a 50% defense break, which is obviously a very strong debuff. And oh, he has an artifact as well. So I've basically like Violet's Talisman, except instead of evasion, you get a 30% chance to silence the enemy. I think this one's hit or miss. I'm trying to think, because they're both thief artifacts. I think I would prefer like an MLDB, because he doesn't have any self-attack buff. An MLDB or Violet's Talisman. 30% chance to silence, that's a little low. Like, I really don't like super low chance debuffs. It's only a 1-turn silence, too. I have mixed opinions on his artifact. So, I mean, he seems pretty good, but how do you gear this thing? He has no real defensive abilities other than this self-barrier. I guess the immunity kind of helps him not get debuffed. But I guess that initial barrier is pretty good. The counter-attack, I think, is going to be pretty easy to avoid. So it's almost like the opposite of ML Lulu. You might want to draft him into teams with a lot of AoE to get him to counter everything. Because otherwise, like, the problem with heroes like Violet and stuff, regular Violet, is, or ML Ken, is when they're going to counter, people just ignore them and save him for last. And based on his base defense stats, he's going to be really squishy and easy to kill. I suppose some people may try putting him on lifesteal to kind of mitigate that. So some people might try to put him on lifesteal set, which you might get away with because he does have really high base speed. So I think this is going to be a really fun hero. I don't think, based on what I'm seeing, I'll be particularly interested in building him because I don't know, unless that HP difference thing is really huge, but honestly, like, this damage against a defense broken target, I don't find particularly impressive, because it's pretty damn hard to defense break a Ruel. Here they have Issaria in high in RTA. The only time you're defense breaking a Ruel on the opener is if you if you bring a high effectiveness Flurry. And to keep in mind, a lot of Ruels are running 180 to 200 effect resist nowadays. So unless you bring a mage and burn it as well, it's going to be real hard to land that defense break. And he just barely killed that Ruel. So I don't really care that much about his counterattack mechanic. It might be super hilarious if he's the last man standing, but if he's not, he's basically just going to get ignored. So I'd say personally I'm not that excited about Irvalen. But we'll see. He might end up being a really good hero. I mean, he's RGB, so I'm obviously going to get him regardless, and we'll see how people use him in RTA, and maybe he'll turn out to be freaking awesome. So anyways, I think we'll wrap this video up here. Those are my thoughts on ML Luluca and Irvalen. They both are kind of like single damage heroes. A quick summary of my opinions is ML Luluca, I think she's going to be pretty damn solid, especially against revive teams. Irvalen, I think he's going to be a lot of fun, but I think he's going to have the same problem as other guaranteed counter heroes where most drafts will just ignore him and then demolish him at the very end. But yeah, they might still be fun. Oh my god, that does not look like a man. Wait, is this a girl? What is this? I thought it was just a dude. I hope it's a girl now, because no dude should ever be wearing socks like that. And high heels. Okay, so it's Jesus Christ. Alright, well, we're just going to wrap this video up there. So thanks for watching. Good luck on your own pulls for these two ladies. And till next time, peace out, boys.